Good evening. Tonight, we time travel to a place so historically accurate it hurts. Physically, emotionally, and possibly gastronomically. Forget the movies. This is the real Middle Ages. It's not romantic. It's damp. You stir from a restless sleep on what can only be generously described as a bed, a half-decayed straw mattress stuffed with hay, lice, and broken dreams. This mattress once lived a noble life as a barn floor. Now, it's your mattress. It smells exactly like you think it would. There's no blanket. There's a heavy wool sack that hasn't seen soap since last winter, and now weighs as much as a small pig from sheer grime. No pillow, just more straw, and possibly something alive. The church bell tolls. It's not a gentle ring. It's the Middle Ages version of a fire alarm. Loud, merciless, and signaling one thing: it's time to suffer again. Your home is a single-room wooden hut with no insulation and no windows. You, your family, a chicken with insomnia, and at least 24 types of insects live together in what someone might call communal living. You stretch and instantly regret it. The air is cold. Your joints ache like you're 80 years old, and the roof leaked again last night, soaking your only tunic. Welcome to morning in 1325. You're 22, which makes you middle-aged. Your back sounds like a wooden door in a horror movie, and your knees click like dice in the hands of a gambler. You're officially creaky. There's no privacy. None. Your parents are here. Your siblings. Possibly a cousin who never left. You all sleep together, breathe the same air, and for better or worse, share a single wooden chamber pot, which you're about to use. Nature calls, and in the 14th century, she does not call politely. There's no toilet, no seat, no flush, not even a mildly resentful plunger in the corner. Instead, you step outside to the back, where a wooden bucket awaits, overflowing from last night's tragic turnip stew aftermath. The smell is biblical. You hold your breath, do your business, and then, here's the medieval kicker, you dump it into the street. Yes, the actual street, out the window, with a shout of Gardez-vous, which is Old French for look out below and good luck. Streets are open sewers, rivers of waste, animal droppings, and mystery liquids no one dares to identify. If you're lucky, you're not hit with yesterday's breakfast thrown from the second story above you. If you live in a town with public latrines, congratulations. Now, you get to sit elbow to elbow with strangers in an outhouse that makes modern porta potties look like luxury spas. Toilet paper? No. You use leaves, moss, straw, or if you're feeling fancy, wool. But most people wipe with whatever's handy. Or, let's be honest, not at all. And if you live in a castle, you get a garderobe, a hole in the wall that empties into the moat. Brilliant. Except attackers know this. And yes, some have crawled in through the waste chute. Literally, a backdoor invasion. So whether you're a farmer or a noble, using the toilet in medieval Europe is not an act of relief. It's a test of courage, coordination, and nasal endurance. You survived the toilet. You deserve breakfast. Too bad it's pottage. Pottage is what happens when despair and leftovers marry. It's a thick stew made from grains, roots, and anything edible that hasn't run away yet. It's been simmering for days, possibly weeks. Old ingredients never leave. New ones just get dumped in. On the side, bread. Hard, heavy, possibly weapon grade. It's made from barley or rye, and usually bulked up with sawdust or crushed acorns. If you drop it, it doesn't bounce. It cracks stone. There are no eggs. Benedict? No pancakes. No fruit smoothies. You eat while sitting near the fire, trying not to think about the rat you heard scurrying across the cooking pot last night. Want a drink? Don't even think about clean water. It's teeming with parasites. So you drink beer. Yes, at 6 a.m. Everyone does. Even kids. It's weak, but it's boiled, and thus less likely to kill you immediately. Breakfast is not joyful. It's functional. It's survival. And it's over. Now put on your one outfit. Yes, the one. And brace yourself, because your day is only going to get worse from here. Let's talk clothes, or rather cloth, singular, because you own exactly one outfit. It's made of rough wool. It itches, it stinks, it has the structural integrity of a damp sponge. You've been wearing it for months, possibly years. There's no concept of fashion here. No winter collection, no summer linen. Just try not to freeze or develop skin rot. Underwear? Optional. And if you do wear it, it's not what you'd call supportive. It's a linen scrap that's more metaphor than material. If you're rich, you might have an under tunic. If you're not, it's you, your bits, and a whole lot of chafing. There's no soap. You wash your clothes in a stream, maybe, if the stream isn't frozen, and you use lye, which is basically medieval bleach. It burns. It stinks. It sort of works. Maybe. But mostly, you just accept that your tunic is going to be crunchy in places. Tunics shouldn't crunch. Shoes, rare. If you have them, they're leather slabs stitched together with hope. They leak. They slip. They fall apart. Most peasants go barefoot through mud, manure, and mystery fluids. You don't put on your outfit. You climb into it like a knight getting into armor. Only your enemy is weather, livestock, and despair. Congratulations. You're now dressed for another day of suffering, and the sun isn't even fully up yet. Time to go to work. Dental care in the Middle Ages is less self-care and more horror show. There's no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no floss. The idea of cleaning your teeth is about as popular as heresy. If you're lucky, you chew on a twig. If you're rich, maybe you rinse your mouth with vinegar or wine. If you're anyone else, you just let nature take its course, which it does, rapidly, violently. By your mid-20s, your teeth look like they've been through several plagues of their own. Cavities, abscesses, missing molars, you name it. Gums are swollen. Breath smells like fermented tragedy. And every meal is a gamble between nourishment and searing pain. And when a tooth finally gives out, there's no dentist, there's a barber. The same guy who cuts your hair also extracts teeth with pliers or a hook in a candlelit room while you scream. Anesthesia. That's called passing out. If the tooth is infected, the infection might kill you. That's right. A toothache can end your medieval life. There are no antibiotics, only prayers and leeches, so you chew your bread carefully. You wince with every bite, and you try not to show your teeth, not for modesty, for mercy. Medieval dental care, guaranteed to make you appreciate the modern toothbrush, or at least not fear it quite so much. Let's talk about your job, not your career. This isn't LinkedIn. This is survival. If you're like 90% of the population, you're a peasant. Your occupation? Doing whatever needs doing until either your back gives out or the weather finishes the job. You rise with the sun. There is no snooze button. You work until sundown. There is no overtime. There is only time and dirt. Your tools? A wooden hoe, a rusty sickle, and your blistered hands. Your fields? Stretchy, muddy, and merciless. Your reward? Maybe a loaf of barley bread, and not freezing to death in the winter. You plow. You plant. You water. You pray. And if the harvest fails, so do you. Not metaphorically, literally. And if you're a woman, surprise. You work the fields and the kitchen and raise the children and scrub the mud off everyone else's tunics. Rest days? Not really, unless you count giving birth in the straw as a break. Your kids? They help too. By age 5, they're already in the fields, working side by side with adults. Toys are a luxury. Education is a rumor. Childhood is brief and often muddy. There is no career advancement, no promotions. You don't network. You survive. Maybe. If you're lucky, the Lord you serve might forget to tax you this week. If you're unlucky, he might double your rent, confiscate your grain, or decide he needs your cow more than you do. So you work. And when you're not working, you're sleeping, sore, hungry, and hoping the pottage tastes less like sadness tomorrow. In medieval Europe, labor isn't just life. It is the only thing keeping you alive. Think you've survived the worst of medieval life? Let's talk about the weather. Because in the Middle Ages, the sky isn't a poetic backdrop. It's an executioner with mood swings. First up, winter. There's no insulation. Your walls are wooden planks with gaps big enough to high-five your neighbor's rats. Your window? A hole with cloth. Your fireplace? Weak. Firewood is expensive. Collecting it? Sometimes illegal. Yes, you can be fined, or worse, for picking up a stick that doesn't belong to you. So you huddle with your family like penguins in a drafty hut. You wear all your clothes at once, which still isn't enough. Your feet are blocks of ice. Your fingers can't bend. Frostbite isn't diagnosed. It's just called a really bad day. Then comes summer, and now your hut is an oven. You can't take off your clothes unless you want judgment, sunburn, or both. The flies are endless. Mosquitoes treat your body like an all-you-can-eat buffet. You smell like goat stew, which is weird because you are the stew. There's no fan, no breeze, no deodorant. You sweat, and the sweat stays with you permanently. You itch, you smell, you suffer. And no matter the season, you still have to work. Spring and autumn? Nice in theory. But in practice, they're just soggy previews of the misery ahead. It rains? Your roof leaks. It stops raining. Your crops die. The weather is never your friend. And the worst part? You can't complain. No one wants to hear it. They're busy scratching, sweating, or freezing too. Climate control? That's called moving closer to the fire and hoping you don't inhale too much smoke. It's the Middle Ages. You're not choosing the temperature. The temperature is choosing you. So you're cold, or you're hot, and you're always itchy. Surely a bath would help, right? No. In the Middle Ages, water isn't a cleansing gift from nature. It's a trap. Let's begin with drinking. The river looks clean. It babbles. It sparkles. It also carries the contents of every chamber pot dumped upstream, including yours from yesterday. That's not mountain spring water. That's upstream stew, which is why everyone drinks beer. Weak beer, even toddlers. It's boiled during brewing, which means it's less likely to kill you. Not impossible, just less likely. Wine's an option, if you're rich. Otherwise, it's ale at breakfast, lunch, and existential crisis. But surely you can still bathe. You'd think, but no. People believe bathing opens your pores and lets disease sneak in. Like germs are just lurking outside your skin with tiny battering rams. Public bathhouses existed, sure, but they gained a reputation for gossip, scandal, and full-on extracurriculars, which quickly got them banned by the church. Even if you want to wash, it's a full production musical of pain. First, you haul water from a well. Then you boil it. Then you dump it into a wooden tub that leaks more than it holds. If you're lucky, you go first. If you're not, you're bathing in your cousin's leftover funk. There's also rainwater collected in barrels where birds poop, insects breed, and moss throws a party. Soap made of lye and animal fat. It scrubs you, but it also exfoliates your soul, gently, like sandpaper wrapped in sadness. So no, you don't bathe. You marinate. You stew in your own sweat until your natural grime barrier protects you from illness or social interaction. Welcome to personal hygiene in the Middle Ages. It's less of a habit, more of a historical footnote. You've endured the weather and skipped the bath. Now your stomach aches. Your tooth is throbbing. You need a doctor? Bad news. There's no such thing. There's only medieval medicine. Let's diagnose the problem. Feeling feverish? That's because your humors are unbalanced. Yes, humors. 4 liquids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Too much of any, and you're doomed. The cure? Bloodletting. Time to drain your veins into a bowl. A barber will do it. That's right. The guy who trims your hair will also slice you open with a rusty blade. Or maybe he'll apply a lech. If it falls off naturally, that's a bonus. Got anxiety? That's probably an excess of black bile. Prescription. A purge. Drink something bitter. Expel everything, and pray you don't lose your soul in the process. Broken leg? Bite down on leather and prepare for splints, fashioned from sticks. Infection? Setting in. That's just God testing your faith. You won't get antibiotics. You'll get prayers. Maybe a poultice made of moss and chicken fat. Surgery. Done without anesthesia. Tools are unwashed, passed from battlefield to village and back. The odds of survival? Somewhere between miracle and no. To summarize, medieval healthcare is a lot like medieval warfare. Bloody, confusing, and mostly guesswork. And yet, you thank the healer. Because at least He didn't try to exorcise your toothache with a holy chant and a burning stick. The odds of survival, somewhere between miracle and no. To summarize, medieval healthcare is a lot like medieval warfare. Bloody, confusing, and mostly guesswork. And yet you thank the healer, because at least he didn't try to exorcise your toothache with a holy chant and a burning stick. Congratulations, you've survived your first medieval illness. For now, after a long day of labor, you finally sit down to eat. You're hungry. Starving, really. Surely a warm, hearty meal awaits? Of course not. Welcome to medieval dining, where the menu is limited and botulism is always the secret ingredient. Tonight's special, pottage. Again, the same gray stew from breakfast, now with extra mystery. If it jiggles, that's just yesterday's barley, pretending to be meat. It's been simmering for a week, possibly longer. Ingredients? Unclear. Texture? Uneven. Flavor? Tragic. On the side? Bread. Harder than stone. You don't slice it, you duel with it. It might contain flour. It might contain bark. It might contain hope. Meat? Rare. Usually a luxury saved for feast days, weddings, or your lord's leftover scraps. If you're lucky, a bit of salted pork. If you're unlucky, rat-tot vegetables. Sure, turnips. Always turnips. Mashed, boiled mashed again. Green things are seasonal, and seasonal is peasant code for rot-resistant. Dessert? That's not a word here. Beverage? Beer. Always beer. Remember, water is dangerous. Wine is for nobles. You get the ale, warm and cloudy. And if you feel fancy, you spice your food with a pinch of salt, if you can afford it. Real spices like pepper, cinnamon, or cloves are worth more than your life. You'll never even see them, so you chew slowly, cautiously. You watch for bugs. You don't ask what moved in your stew. You just eat, because tomorrow's dinner might be worse. In the Middle Ages, food is not joy. Food is fuel. And sometimes, food is a trap. Evening arrives. You've survived. Bad food, worse medicine, and weather that feels like punishment from the sky. Time to relax? Not quite, because the church is watching. In the medieval Europe, religion isn't just part of life. It is life. The church controls your calendar, your morals, your afterlife plan, and, just for fun, your wallet. Daily life is divided by prayer bells. Morning, noon, and night, they ring out like divine time cards. Missing prayer? That's a sin. Thinking about not praying? Also a sin. Dreaming about your neighbor's spouse? Sin squared. Can you read the Bible? No. It's in Latin. Only priests and a few nobles know what it says. Everyone else gets the censored, fear-inducing version. Pray hard or burn forever. Hell is described in loving detail. Rivers of fire, demons with pitchforks, lakes of boiling blood. The priest paints the picture vividly, probably because it keeps you obedient and terrified. Tithes, mandatory. You give the church 10% of everything. Grain, eggs, coins, livestock. Don't have 10%? Too bad. Give anyway. God's math isn't negotiable. Holidays are holy days. You get a break from work, but you don't party. You fast, confess, attend Mass, and reflect on your worthlessness. Question the church? That's heresy. You'll be exiled, exorcised, or executed. Possibly all three. Witches are drowned. Blasphemers are flogged. Skeptics vanish mysteriously. Religion is everywhere, from the cradle to the grave. And if the plague doesn't get you, fear of damnation probably will. Welcome to faith, medieval style, comforting, occasionally, controlling, absolutely. And you'd better believe Agnes, next door, is judging how loud you kneel. Tomorrow, you'll start the whole cycle again. If you survive the night without sinning in your dreams, think life was rough before. Now try doing it all while being born female. You get the same bad food, same worse hygiene, and still have to haul firewood through a mudslick. But wait, there's more. Add childbirth, no rights, and a daily reminder that your existence is legally decorative. From birth, your future's already written. Marry young, bear children, serve your husband, die tired. Education? Unlikely, unless you're nobility or lucky enough to join a convent. Your schooling ends at needlework and knowing when not to speak. Marriage isn't romantic, it's a transaction. You're traded like livestock to strengthen family alliances. 12 is marriageable. 14? A mom. Love is optional. Consent? Never asked. Once married, you belong to your husband. Legally, he can hit you. He can leave you. He can spend your dowry on ale. And if you dare to argue, you might end up branded as a witch. Speaking of witches, if you're too smart, too independent, or just have an herb garden and a sassy mouth, you're suspicious. Welcome to trial by fire, or water, or rope, or all three. Childbirth is a gamble. No doctors, no pain relief, just midwives and hot water. One wrong turn, and it's game over. For you, the baby, or both. But if you survive, great. Now raise 6 more on a diet of boiled onions and fear. Single, you're pitied or scorned. Widowed, vulnerable, outspoken, dangerous. Women who don't conform are either erased or punished. Even in the church, you're second class. Nuns follow stricter rules, with less freedom, and get half the recognition. In short, being a woman in the Middle Ages isn't hard. It's impossible. And the only thing worse than your social status is that you're expected to endure it all silently, gracefully, and with a smile. Just when you think the worst is over, here comes medieval justice. Or rather, justice, as it's more performance art than legal system. Let's start small. Steal bread, lose a hand, lie about your neighbor, tongue pierced, gossip too much. You get the scold's bridle, a metal cage for your face, complete with a spiked bit to keep your tongue still. Fashion forward and silence enforced. Accused of something serious. Heresy, witchcraft, theft. Don't expect lawyers. Expect torture. Trial by ordeal is the medieval method of divine judgment. You might be told to plunge your arm into boiling water. If it heals quickly, you're innocent. If not, guilty. Another classic, thrown into a river. Sink, innocent and drowned. Float, guilty and burned. Either way, you lose. Executions aren't shameful. They're events. Entire towns turn out to watch. Hangings, beheadings, burnings. Kids get front row seats. There's cheering. There are snacks. It's the Middle Ages version of a Netflix binge. Domestic violence, entirely legal. Husbands could discipline wives and children at will. Street fights are common. Brawls over pigs, firewood, or even eye contact could turn deadly. And war? Always simmering. Crusades, rebellions, noble feuds. Somebody is always marching somewhere with a sword and a grievance. Violence isn't an exception to society. It is society. Survival isn't just about food or shelter. It's about knowing who not to offend, when to keep your head down, and how to walk really fast past the town gallows. In the Middle Ages, fear isn't a bug in the system. It's the whole operating system. You've survived bad food, brutal weather, terrifying doctors, and endless labor. But no matter how tough you are, death comes fast and often, and rarely with warning. Let's start with the numbers. Life expectancy, around 30 to 40 years. But that's not the average person's life. It's what happens when you factor in child mortality. Almost half of all children die before they turn 5. Flu, fever, bad milk, a dirty blade, or a cold night. That's all it takes. Make it to adulthood. Congrats. Now you're a walking target for plague, famine, childbirth, infection, or violence. Men, death waits in the fields, on the roads, or during any number of random wars. Farming accidents are common. Bandits are bold. A minor cut can get infected and turn septic. There's no penicillin, just prayers. Women, the big boss battle is childbirth. No prenatal care, no C-sections, no doctors, just midwives, hot water, and hope. A breech birth could mean death, and if you survive, you do it again, and again, and again. Then there's disease. Plague comes in waves, clearing towns like a reset button. Famine wipes out entire regions. A bad harvest means an empty winter, and empty stomachs don't survive long, even if you're rich. Death is always lurking. Nobles die from poisoned feasts, politicals, accidents, and infections from luxury surgeries. Castles don't have good airflow. A cold can become pneumonia. A stubbed toe can become a funeral. Burials? Quick and shallow. No embalming. No service. Just a hole and maybe a prayer. Cemeteries fill up fast. And when they do, older graves are reused. In the Middle Ages, you don't retire. You disappear, quietly or not. So next time your soup is too salty or your Wi-Fi cuts out, remember, at least it's not 1347 and you're not dying of scurvy because a rat sneezed near your bread. Think being a noble meant luxury? Think again. Sure, you're not tilling the fields, but life in a castle is far from a fairy tale. Let's start with the castle itself. Cold, damp, stone walls that drip condensation, rooms full of smoke and fleas. Your great hall might be grand, but it echoes like a cave and smells like cooked goose, mold, and ambition. Privacy? Non-existent. Servants scurry everywhere. Family members crowd every room, and every step echoes like a drumbeat of drama. You sleep on a bed, a wooden frame with a straw mattress, just like the peasants, but with slightly fewer bugs and maybe a canopy that blocks nothing but hope. The food is better, but not by much. More meat, more spice, and more danger. Undercooked pork, spoiled wine, and poisoned rivals. Every meal is a gamble, every feast a political minefield. As for hygiene, don't expect much. Nobles bathe slightly more often than peasants, maybe 3 times a year. Perfume does most of the work. And the toilets? Same hole in the wall design, just with more velvet drapes. Power? Absolutely. But it's fragile. Your enemies are everywhere. Family members plot. Vassals betray. One wrong word, and your head is on the same chopping block you ordered for someone else. Plague doesn't care if you wear a crown. In fact, castles are great incubators, tight quarters, lots of visitors, and nowhere to run. When the Black Death hits, it doesn't check bloodlines, it checks in. So while the peasants pray to survive, the nobles pray not to be stabbed, poisoned, overthrown, or infected. Yes, you wear jewels. Yes, you command armies. But your crown is heavy, and your castle is drafty. And power? It's just another kind of prison with slightly better wine. After surviving a day in medieval life, you'd think the night would offer peace. It doesn't. Welcome to medieval bedtime, a time of creaks, cold, and creatures. Let's start with your bed. It's not a plush mattress. It's a wooden frame filled with straw, hay, or if you're lucky, feathers. But most nights, it's flat, lumpy, and crawling. Lice, fleas, and bedbugs have their own colonies. Your blanket? Wool, unwashed, damp with something suspicious, and heavy as sin. Pillows? Maybe. But it's probably a sack of rags that smells like onion breath. You don't lie down, you nest in filth, and hope the itch doesn't keep you up. And you're never alone. Your family is beside you, possibly on top of you. There are no separate rooms, no privacy. If someone snores, everyone suffers. If someone kicks, you kick back or fall out of bed onto a dirt floor. Outside, the cold seeps through the thatched roof. Inside, the fire has long since died. Your breath fogs in the air. You hug yourself tight, and still your fingers ache from frost. Sounds. Oh, plenty. Wind howls. Dogs bark. Rats scurry across beams. And sometimes, in the distance, a scream or chant that makes your hair stand up. Night isn't peaceful. It's haunted. People still believe in witches, demons, ghosts. Darkness is feared. Lanterns are rare. Candles are precious. Most people pray themselves to sleep. Not for dreams, but for survival. You'd think the nobles sleep better. Not really. Their chambers are grand, but freezing. Servants clomp through at all hours. The fire is smoky. The fleas are just wearing velvet. And if you're rich, you've probably eaten something questionable for dinner. So your dreams? Filled with indigestion and existential dread. Sleep in the Middle Ages isn't rest. It's intermission. So close your eyes, if you dare, and don't let the lice bite. By now, you've trudged through the full horror show of medieval daily life. The filth, the fear, the fleas. And yet, we still romanticize this era. We build castles in amusement parks. We reenact night battles. We dress up for Renaissance fairs. Why? Because the Middle Ages feel magical. When stripped of the reality, we see the myths, not the misery. Gallant knights, damsels in gowns, feasts in candlelight. But it was never that clean, never that fair, never that noble. People didn't live. They endured. They fought rats, famine, superstition, and social rigidity. They aged fast. They died young. Their dreams were smaller. Survive the week. Harvest enough food. Marry before a fever takes you. And yet, somehow they laughed. They loved. They sang. They found meaning in simplicity, in a loaf of bread, in a sunny day, in the absence of suffering, for just a moment. That's what makes this era both terrifying and tender. It was brutal, but it was human. Entire lives were lived in the margins of survival. But even in those margins, people dreamed, and dreamed hard. So tonight, as you settle into your warm, clean bed with your running water, lights, and soft pillows, remember, the people of the Middle Ages didn't have less imagination. They just had fewer choices. You made it. You've survived the most sleepless, itchy, miserable journey through time, and now you can rest. You've earned it. Sleep tight. Forget perfume or candles. The Middle Ages had one prevailing scent. Awful. Homes reeked of smoke, sweat, animals, and rot. Streets were lined with waste, and chamber pots were tossed into the gutters. People rarely bathed, and when they did, they shared the same murky water. Livestock, mold, dung, and mildew mixed into a perfume you'd never want bottled. Even churches smelled. Candles, incense, and crowds packed into stone walls with no ventilation. The nose didn't rest. It suffered. Could you read in the Middle Ages? Probably not. Literacy was reserved for nobles, monks, and clergy. Most peasants never saw a book, let alone read one. Schools were rare. Learning meant memorizing religious chants or working with your hands. If you were rich, you had a tutor. If you were poor, you had a shovel. Pets existed, cats, dogs, even birds. But they weren't cuddly companions. They worked. Cats killed rats. Dogs guarded doors. And rats? They carried fleas. Fleas carried plague. It was a food chain of horror. Sometimes pets were eaten during famine. Sometimes they were blamed for disease and killed. No one was safe, not even the village goat. Think medieval fashion was glamorous. Try wearing layers of unwashed wool held up by itchy ropes. Shoes were thin leather. Corsets were real. If you were noble, fashion was a torture ritual. Starched collars, long sleeves dragging in mud, headpieces that blocked peripheral vision. If you were poor, one outfit, until it disintegrated. Want to visit another town? Pack bread, prayers, and a will. Roads were muddy, dangerous, and filled with bandits. Horses were rare. Most walked. Maps were unreliable. Inns were bug-infested. You didn't travel for fun. You traveled because you had to, and you hoped to return with all your limbs. No TikTok, no Netflix, just storytelling, music, or watching your neighbor fall into the latrine. Jesters juggled. Minstrels sang. Markets bustled. And if you were really lucky, someone brought a bear. Executions were also entertainment. So were public punishments. The bar was low. The crowd was loud. The night was feared, not because of crime, but because of demons. People believed in witches, spirits, and omens. Sleepwalkers were cursed. Dreams were warnings. Black cats, evil. Bats, worse. Charms, prayers, and garlic hung near doors. And still, people swore they heard things scratching at the shutters. You survived the journey, itchy, cold, hungry, and horrified, but also maybe grateful. Your world has pain, yes, but it also has hot showers, soft sheets, antibiotics, and the freedom to dream beyond survival. So tonight, as your room glows softly, your stomach full, and your mattress cloud-like, smile. You're not in the Middle Ages. You won the birth lottery. Sleep well.